Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thank You 5, Straw Dog Theater Company's weekly panel discussion show on the topic of what is theater. My name is Hank Boland. I'm an ensemble member here at Straw Dog Theater Company. I am a writer, I'm an arts administrator, I'm an educator, and that's about all you need to know about me because we're not here for me tonight. But we are here for these amazing guests. So we're going to each go through and introduce ourselves, and then we're going to get right to the discussion.
I'll go first. My name's Leah Marsanti. I'm a writer and specifically a playwright. And I also am a teaching artist with Harmony Community Care's theater program right now, but have done other theater programs in the past.
Sean Sinitsky, I'm an actor. That's about it.
All right. I'm Shane Richland. I'm also an actor, but I also do fight choreography, and I'm an actor in combatant with the SAFD. And I am a company member of the new theater company called Nonsense Theater Company. Just became a company member, I don't know, a month or two ago. Nice.
Hi, my name is Gabriela Furtado Coutinho. Say that 5 times fast.
Nope.
I she, her. I'm an actor, playwright, and currently an editor at American Theater. I also teach, and I love Shakespeare. I love new work. I love Latine stories. I like hope in general. And to all those who are celebrating a happy astrological new year.
Yes. Brilliant. Yes. Your land celebrating.
Good.
Yes. Return of the Sun. I like it. All right. So, as we always start out with a very simple question. I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
What is theater?
Well, I mean, stories. Period. You know, I mean, and how you tell that story, it can be done any number of ways. I know what, well, you know, I used to be in fine theater.
Yes.
And we closed their doors many years ago. But it was always fun. I know that somebody once called Defiant Theater a bunch of bloody naked people jumping off of scaffolding. Which is true, but not all at once. But finding some of the goofier things that we could do to tell the story. Like Joe Faust did a rewrite of Voodoo Raw, and it was extraordinarily obscene. But for instance, like when they're being judged, there's a, Nick Offerman actually was the judge, and he was standing on a platform, and then they had made a flat that came in front of him that made him look like he was that tall. And then as the people would come out to be judged, he would say guilty, and a big penis would come up and hit him on the head. That's a great way to tell a story. Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong.
So we did a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us, what do you believe is theater?
Sure. I don't think I'm going to stray too far from what Sean already said, because I agree with a lot of what he said. I think it's a collective telling of stories with some form of audience, with some intention to affect that audience in some way. It doesn't have to be like this crazy, emotional, devastating thing. It doesn't have to be wholly cathartic. It could be Shrek the Musical, and it's kind of a lighthearted, fun romp. And I love Shrek the Musical. I adore that, and a lot of people give me crap for it. I think it's a great musical because it is just fun. And sometimes you need a release. Theater can be that release. It can be intelligent. It can be anything you want it to be. I think as long as there's some form of an audience.
Okay.
So if a play is in that voice and no one's going to watch it,
Doesn't even count as a play. The age-old question.
well, I mean, that comes up to art for its sake. I mean, does it need music?
No, I actually got into a huge argument with somebody about a year or so ago. I don't need to say his name. He sucks. But we got into this whole argument about when we're not on camera about what art means, and he was arguing that it has to be seen by an audience, and it has to be observed, and it has to be like financially, like he was basically, and I was like, no, like art, like if somebody draws a painting or draws a picture or paints a painting, writes a piece of music, if they get something out of that, great, you've made art.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, so I know earlier I said like with an audience, so maybe there doesn't necessarily have to be an audience, but if you as the creator get something out of it, you have made art. Congratulations.
But you don't have to make it for anybody else.
For me, I think the piece of the audience is really important when talking about theater as opposed to any form of art. I think for me, like the definition, like how I conceptualize it, is a melding of different art forms with some element of liveness and an audience, even if that audience is just one person. Or even perhaps, you're playing in the mirror, like with some kind of like bit that you want to do for your friends, telling a story. I think even that can be theater. I like to credit a lot of my storytelling aesthetic and my theatrical aesthetic with non-theater, not what people wouldn't like traditionally consider theater. I'm originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which is a very inherently theatrical culture. People are incredibly expressive in how they speak and tell stories and celebrate festivities. So I think that, a lot of our holidays would be counted as theater. I think a lot of conversations that we have are incredibly theatrical. But I think the element of liveness is important, but I also think that element of liveness can be mediated through something else. So I know we're also going to talk about the digital age in a second. And when I think about recorded performances, I do still consider it theater because there was some element of liveness in the recording of it or in the conceptualization of we want to tell this together and not do it in different takes and allow the spontaneity to be real and in the moment and roll with the punches of that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too, is like, and we're probably also jumping the gun a little bit on the next question, but I like to think of, can this story be told in any other medium, right? Because I do write for other mediums as well. I've written for film, I've written a little bit for television, I've written fiction, and I think you do have to consider the audience in those different mediums, and there's an immediacy to theater, and there's a timely immediacy to theater in addition to the audience being there, right? Theater can be made much quicker than some of these other mediums. I wrote a film that is finally in production that I wrote in 2019, right? And it's just being produced now. Part of that was the pandemic. But that film had to, and I think a lot of film has to inherently be timeless in a way that theater can be conversely very timely and very reactive to exactly what's happening in a cultural moment. And then you do bring audiences in and you get their energy and their feedback, and it creates its own cultural moment surrounding whatever the issue is in that play, even if it's just Shrek and the issue is fun, right? Which it can be. And sometimes that is exactly what the world needs. So that's my addition to this conversation.
All right.
Okay. Yes.
Theater in the digital age. Right? What does that even mean to you? When you hear that, what is your response? And then just tell me what that is to you.
Well, I think at first my response was to kind of groan and go, it's just not the same. And that's true, right? Theater is, I think one of the things I enjoy most about theater is that you do have that live audience. And so when the pandemic hit and everybody was switching to Zoom readings and trying to do all this really creative, innovative stuff with technology, there was a part of me that was really hesitant to go along with it a whole lot because I was like, it's not live, it's not the same. I'm over that now. I think it's the same thing to me. I don't think the definition really changes to me at this point. You are still putting on a show, you still have a purpose, you are still trying to affect your audience in some way. You just have to adjust to the medium that you have. You don't have 300 people in a proscenium theater, you have a camera. And so how does that change what your audience interaction is? Well, you find out in the room.
Not to jump the line, but a quick response to what you said, Shane. I think the issue with Zoom theater at the beginning of Zoom theater is the same issue as putting a play that's meant to be in a black box in a proscenium, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Like
sure,
it was
yeah.
just not written for the medium.
Yeah.
And then when people started taking the medium into account and writing for the medium, I think it got better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also would like to see this. It needs to be more play involved. I mean, we can watch a film, we can watch a play, we can watch TV. So what are you going to do that's different? What I mean, I don't think that's been tapped yet. I mean, I haven't seen anything that I was like going, wow, that's new.
And I think a lot of the way that I've heard the dialogue around theater in the digital age be approached is that we are in competition with the digital mediums and that we are hesitant to engage with them because they also might lead to our own downfall. We might sometimes, I know I feel apprehensive about AI. I sometimes feel apprehensive about us competing with film TV. And at the same time, a way that I've been thinking about it differently is I think that it's because we are in a digital age that theater has come to mean so much more to me personally. And I think it's also about spreading that feeling among audiences and really understanding what it feels like for people to change their habits and come back in person. We also have the added layer in Chicago that it gets very cold. And I think a lot of times people just want to hibernate in their homes and they're not ready necessarily to go out, engage, see a play, be in community with people, especially when we become so used to being isolated. So I think theater in the digital age feels all the more needed. And of course, we will, I'm certainly, find other ways through technology to encourage people to come back. But I don't necessarily think those two things need to be at odds.
Not at all.
And I'm sure we'll get to AI in a minute because I have a lot to say on that topic.
Not
as,
to open
as the right.
No, we kind of do.
But before that, speaking to like friends of mine who are actors, some of them are utilizing TikTok, and I know that's up in the air, right? Like with what's going to happen with that. But some of them are able to be full-time actors and do like off-Broadway stuff that wouldn't otherwise pay them a living because they are making content for TikTok and characters for TikTok. And so they're able to do their art full-time because of technology and be able to do theater at, theater prices. So I do think there's like some benefit to that as well. I'll take it to you before we open that AI can of worms.
Well, what I want to see too is like years ago, Stephen Wright got an Oscar for a film that he did, and I loved it because it was really pushing what a film could be. Like one of the bits in it was that he was watching his television, and there was another couple watching him on the television, and that kind of ingenuity.
I depends how young you are.
I just turned 25.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to see that. I want to see more experimental.
So what is it then? Like, what do you think is, man, I don't know that I want Joe Faust writing for digital
Oh
media.
God, no.
But what is it? What do you take? Is there a way to take the defiant energy
Mhm.
and get it on?
I think there is.
Like what is the inherent?
Well, I think the way we're looking at it, like, you mentioned black box as opposed to proscenium, is that you have to consider completely different media. And that you've got free reign. I think a lot of people just say, just put a static to it and they act out in front of it, and that's great. But now what can you do? Take 3 or 4 different cameras in there. Have like maybe do like when you do a site piece, put a bunch of cameras in a house and find different ways to work with that, because that is something that could be interesting.
At what point does it change from theater to film, though? Like, if you're adding cameras, you're adding all this technical stuff.
Well, it's happening live, so
Sure.
It's reality TV theater.
it'll be scripted.
Yeah.
It'll be scripted.
Well, it's also heavily edited, even
Yeah.
though it's not scripted,
Yeah.
right? I think once you bring an editor in, it becomes not linear.
Yeah,
that works.
Yeah.
Hey, what about a director though? Is he ever?
No, no, I don't think so because he can't edit what is going on the stage in the moment.
The final product.
And the movie,
Right.
yeah, he's,
Right. I don't know.
there's stuff to do there.
Yeah. What I was thinking when you were saying that was like live RPGs. And like, there was this crazy thing on TikTok that I saw that I was so interested in called You Shouldn't Be Watching This. And it was this guy who like, very theatrically, like just shot like little moments of like what looks like him killing someone. I mean, it wasn't, but like, it was like, you know, him dragging like evidence and things like that. And it was interesting because people thought it was real, and in the same way that like old radio theater thought War of the Worlds was real, I feel like I find this very interesting, and like and that interaction, you know.
When we come back to AI, I got something.
Yeah.
Just thinking about like RPGs, the like role playing games and stuff like recently with this company Nonsense that I'm part of, about a month ago, I'm looking at my roommate Kyle. He was a part of it. We did a live action production of Dungeons and Dragons. So we did a one shot, so just one night only. We choreographed fights for it, which anybody who knows D&D, it's kind of tricky to plan out your fights ahead of time. But we had an amazing choreographer, CB Kaysen, and Kyle was a wonderful GM, and we had other people involved as well, George and Beth, who were all wonderful to work with. And so, like, thinking about theater in the digital age too, it's like you can do Dungeons and Dragons, you know, Critical Role, and Dimension 20 on these people. They've been doing it for a long time. You can do these games, just play a game for an audience and have fun.
Yeah, good. There are some of those.
Yeah.
And I know what I was thinking too is that we turned it on its head. For Abby Hoffman Festival, we did what was called La Surprise Grande, which is supposed to be a lost Elfrid Jerry script. And so we stormed the stage, and like there was like 30 of us. And we were putting things up, we're setting things up, and then the lights came down, and when it came up, it was just Will Schutz sitting in a chair, reading a newspaper. And then the phone starts. And it keeps ringing. And it keeps ringing. So the audience becomes the show because there's this wonderful energy. It's like, oh, something's happening. Oh, wait a minute. No, nothing. Nothing's happening. What's going on here? Oh, I see. Well, wait. It's this big arc. And it would be fascinating to find a way to make the audience the show with a Zoom or something.
Yeah.
I'm listening so hard, and all the wheels are going back.
Oh, it was a great show. I think we went on, I think, 12 minutes before somebody stormed the stage and was going to try and answer the phone. And then we went, strike! Lights out.
So you just keep doing it until you get a reaction from the
Well, the
audience.
idea was like to keep doing it until the stage is stormed or everybody walks out. That was the two options. And we would have done that.
I've seen a lot of Chicago theater that seems to work under that premise.
Yeah.
But yeah.
On
So-
purpose?
It's not an admission stage. It seems like you're all eager to talk about AI.
Well, eager is one way to say it.
I don't know.
Here's a funny way. I feel like it's something, and I don't want to cut you off because it looks like you're processing a lot of things. I think we all are processing a lot of things when it comes to that. I'll say what I think is really sad, and I've heard more and more authors articulate this more poetically than I can at the moment, but that it's just very, very sad to see a form of plagiarism become normalized. I am sure that as we are now entering this more predominantly digital age, there will be some kind of restriction around what this can do, how much can be fed into this machine, I hope, just in the same way that I also hope that for young people engaging with social media, there can also be more restrictions around content or how much time they use during the day. I, of course, don't want it to be an Orwellian situation in which we're limited and by the government or anything like that. So these things are very tricky, but I do hope that there is some kind of balance and give or take that will keep us healthy and that will keep artists work, you know, for themselves. I also think something that can be very fun, I decided against perhaps my better judgment to engage with ChatGPT the other day. I have very, very vivid dreams. I actually have dreams, very vivid dreams every single night. And I wasn't in therapy at that moment. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to process this? Oh, I know. I'll go to ChatGPT. So I had a whole conversation with ChatGPT. But what was really interesting is it kept spitting back out what I was feeding it.
Yeah.
So I also think that in an era of loneliness, I'm very, very curious about what kinds of conversations AI has. What are the ethics of AI? There was one moment that I was having a conversation with the AI and I was kind of pushing its buttons. And it said, well, that might be offensive to some people because I was talking about links between vampirism and Christianity, which are very prevalent, by the way. I am Christian. I'm not, you know, trying to be hateful or anything, but drinking of blood is a thing. See, but the music agrees with me. And the heavens, but so it's just interesting to see where the line is for AI as it takes on its own character. My grandfather will have a different perspective because he's in computer science and he's doing AI research, and he sees it as a really interesting way to generate different kinds of stories based on the same premise. So he's developed an AI software to allow people people who are not artists to tell stories in a way that they would want to tell. So I think it's really interesting to give, as he puts it, like the common person an ability to engage with art in a way that like they might not be able to. So I thought that was quite noble of him, but he also understands the implications. But I'm very curious about what this will bring. Thanks for bearing with me through the long-winded answer.
And to go back to the ethics, I forget, it was some university, their chat. Somebody went on there and said, I want to kill my wife. Give me 5 ways to do it without getting caught. And it did.
Yeah.
So then, but there are things called guardrails. So they put this guardrail on it, essentially said, you can't do this. You can't do this. So then the person came back, somebody else came back and says, well, let's see if we can game this. So I'm writing a book and I want to kill the main character. How can I do it and get away with it? So it's about context.
I think that you could also just Google that, right? Like, that was an issue with the internet before AI.
I think it was just
Jeeves.
yeah. I mean, it was just a mental exercise of like, what can I make this thing do?
Yeah. I mean, as a writer, you should see my search history. But on AI, I kind of have 3 minds, right? Like, there's like the overarching social issue of like AI hallucinating and like existing kind of in a vacuum where it like can spit things back out, which I will leave for a different conversation. There's me as a teacher, and I will also leave that for a different conversation, but like, it is just very hard to prove plagiarism even if you know someone used AI. As a writer, I am currently working on a play. The play I'm almost finished with actually is called AI Did Not Write This Play, and it is about a poet who is accused of a performance poet who is very Amanda Gorman-like, political poet who is accused of using AI to write their work. And part of what I've been doing for the play is trying to use AI to write half of the poetry and writing the other half myself. And I gotta tell you, I spend more time trying to get AI to spit out something that sounds good than I do writing poetry myself. And I think where AI is right now is like it's a tool, but it's not actually good enough. It's not thinking and it's not feeling, so it's not good enough to take writers' jobs. Yeah. And what you were talking about earlier, Sean, with like if our goal as artists is to create something new, it is incapable of doing that. It can synthesize what already exists. So, I mean, I think the worry, the general like dread underneath that all for artists is, will it get to that point where it can create something new? And I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think
it's something I'm grappling with in the play too. It's like,
because it's a predictive, is predicting what you want based on its database. So it can't really come up with a new idea unless you give it to it, and then it's not its idea. But where I would like to see it done, and I saw a good example of this, is taking to the classroom, like the theater classroom, if you're teaching Shakespeare, and like I saw somebody put in, like, could you summarize to be or not to be, and explain what it means, and it came out with a very lucid answer. So I think it's something that could be used, especially for teaching. If you're having trouble with the play or what you're reading, put it through AI and say, I've got questions about this. What do you think?
But those guides already exist without the AI element. I know,
Yeah.
like Shakespeare books
But
exist.
how many note things called again? The yellow.
Cliff.
Shakespeare for dummies.
Yeah.
Oh, clip notes. Yeah.
How many clip notes do you have to buy?
I mean, fair. That's fair. It's just.
I mean, that's also what AI is probably pulling from. There's absolutely
Yes.
much material about Shakespeare out there
Yeah.
for it to synthesize.
Right.
That, that it can do it quite lucidly.
And are you taking the jobs from people who work for Cliff Notes? Right, that's the other question.
And
Well, they're
Teachers
hiring AI.
themselves,
Yeah.
right? Because then a teacher could have also been approached with that question.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
yeah.
a dramaturg could have been the person to answer these questions, and now you're not. Now you're like, oh, we don't need a dramaturg. We can just type it into Chat GPT or whatever, and you're getting rid of jobs.
Yeah, if the answer it's giving you is even right, and like that's the other part of this is like it's finding you an answer based on what is on the internet.
Yeah.
And that has to be right for it to give you the right answer.
Right.
So
And it will lie.
Yeah. And how many people just take it for the truth?
Oh, yeah.
That's what
You mean
concerns
like-
me too.
Miracle.
Yeah, exactly. They just type it in the chat, their AI bot.
Oh, it was on Google, so it must be.
They go, oh, well, AI says so, so
Yeah.
now I believe this wholeheartedly true, like without even questioning.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's the thing about AI too, is that you have to have an editor on the other side.
then why not just have the person do the thing?
Well, yeah, I'm just,
Yeah, no, I know. This is not targeted at you at all.
I'm taking offense.
and that becomes the question too is like does it actually save time? Like are you wasting so much time editing what it says
Yeah.
that you could have just done it in the first place?
I use AI for emails.
For emails, I use it for emails too.
Just saying that.
But that's different.
It just saves me time because it gives me a lot of stuff that I can cut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as a teacher, I have an assignment that somebody turned in that is so clearly generated by AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my only grounds for like proving it are like, hey, you seem to really you clearly understand and love the structure of this film. I want to have a conversation with you about it. And I know from grading their work that it's AI because there's things that are not in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the plot points are completely different, all of that. But at the same time, like that's it. As a teacher, I've done things like, hey, here's a writing problem. Here, I'm going to show my class, these are the shitty responses I got from an AI. So, like, look at how much better you can do. Right? But I also have students that are someplace like in this world where they do have.
Here's something we could try. So you got a Zoom show trying something different. So you have actors interacting with the AI,
Yep.
and you take the AI's lines and read them, and make play it live on stage.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
And I think also what we've been talking about is because it pulls from things, the question of adaptation and intertextuality becomes really, really compelling. The doing of it, though, sometimes perhaps in the moment between people might get a little bit lost as we're mainly interacting with the machine. Then again, we've also had other moments in the history in which we've started to interact more with machines. So I think this is another one of those junctures we're coming to in this generation. But in terms of the liveness, I know earlier we were talking about Joe Mazza before the camera started rolling and how much he loved the liveness. And of course, Joe is behind a camera, which is a machine, but lives so much and brings so much energy and joy and humanity to what he does. So I think it's interesting to think about how do we still retain that focus on one another and just use this as a tool and not center everything around it.
Yeah, that is the exact part of the question. I think you just summed it up. Like that's what it is.
Nailed it.
So, almost to a person, you said audience. And almost to a person, you said liveness. Those two things have to be going on at the same time.
So liveness and
Audience.
audience.
It's always scary when there's a live stream and you look and there's no audience on there. I don't know what happens when it's like, hello to the nothingness. We're not here because there's no one.
We have
we have a live audience.
panoply of humans here.
Thank goodness. I think that's such a curious thing, you know. I think, of course, during the pandemic, now that we still are in a pandemic, but we are back in person for a lot of it. I don't know, I'm like really curious about what we all have.
It goes back to like personal mistake. It really depends on what you want.
Right.
You who? You the audience?
You, the person creating. Yes, if you want people to see it, then that's, if you want to just do it to your cat,
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
It's like that, like, I don't know if it's obscene, but I'll know when I see it. Like, that's kind of how I feel about theater. Like, I don't know if it's theater, but I know when I see it. Because I know football isn't theater, but that's live and audience at the same time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Theatrical elements to it.
Then,
Absolutely.
yes, for sure there are. But, like, I wouldn't go to a Bears game and say I saw a play, right? Like,
No, you wouldn't.
You would not. You're really bad at that. Symbolism.
right. But I mean, I think there are other mediums with theatrical elements. I think there's overlap, and I think what theater is, like, it's when you see it, if you know what theater is, you're like, oh, that feels like a piece of theater to me. Because I watched Hamilton live after the fact, and it still feels like a piece of theater to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe it's essence.
I do think it's essence.
Essence.
I'm talking, I think, about Walter Benjamin's theory of essence, and there being some kind of immaterial quality to things. I'm also a very spiritual person, and I integrate that with my artistry. So for me, those things are kind of inseparable. And I guess through saying that we can only discern theater by a feeling as opposed to a concrete definition, we might also be saying that the definition of theater itself has to do with humanity, and it cannot be replicated by machines without the human touch. Not to bring it back to,
Oh, I would love to have a play with a robot in it. That would be
fun. Has anyone read Happy Birthday, Mars Rover?
Oh yeah.
It's a beautiful play. Makes you think about the humanity of machines
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By Preston Choi, I think it was. Yeah. It's a beautiful play.
There's another one that's escaping me right now that's similar. Anyway.
I guess it comes down to why do you need a definition?
Why do you need a definition?
Definitions for different.
Where you got Grant?
But I think we try and put things in a box all the time.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
let people take what they want.
Let it be. Nice.
And let them call it.
Amen.
We solved it.
Thank you for joining us for our very last. Thank you, Vaughn.
We have not answered the question.
Now answer the question. We are fairly close to starting to wrap up. We have a 7:30 hour. And I have some thank yous I have to do. And as I do those, I want you to be thinking about recommendation.
Okay.
So, real quick, thank you number one to OfficeHours.global, Guy Cochran, Edwin Ruiz, who's not here producing the show tonight, but thank you anyways, as always. Mondo Machine, KVH Media for helping make the technical parts of this show possible tonight. Also, Mr. Heath Hayes is back there, who doesn't want to know this. Maybe he lied about where he was tonight. I don't know. No, I don't know. Thank you, number two. The show is made possible by Straw Dog Theater Company and ensemble members. Straw Dog is run on a free theater model, and all of our main stage productions are available to everyone free of charge. The only way we can make that possible is through donations. So if you can find more information about that at strawdog.org, or talk to any of the needy people in the room this evening. If you'd like, we'll take a donation from you here in person. Speaking of Straw Dog ensemble members, Kyle Hammond, who is also there at the booth. He created and produced this show. Thank you, Kyle. 5 times in and of itself. Thank you, number 4, our audience. and our community who watch and tune in and watch it on archive or catch up and do all of that sort of stuff. We couldn't do it without you. We appreciate it. We enjoy doing it, but we're glad you're watching. And number 5, thank you to these amazing panelists for sharing their brilliance, their ideas, their essence. They share their essence this evening.
You're tying it all together.
I want dinner first.
Talk to me after the show.
We're not supposed to wear blue.
I do too. We can talk into that. All right. So, yeah. So here's the thing. We tried to ask everybody to recommend a book or a play or a craft book or something, so that it makes things a little sticky. They can walk out, and, if they didn't like what you said, they can at least go read a book. All right? So,
I can't remember the author.
I can go, but it's not a theater book. It's just the book I recently read, and it's like so on my mind, and it's so good.
would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, I really.
Why don't
want
you
to.
share with the group?
It's called What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I think it got a lot of buzz on like Goodreads within the past year, I think. But it is just everything I want from like a piece of storytelling. It is queer, but in a way that like isn't about that, and it just like normalizes queerness, which I love. It's horror in a way that like is both very human and very psychological and very environmental, which is cool. It's got rabbits, it's got mushrooms, but not the like fun kind, like actual fungi. And it's an adaptation of The Fall of the House of Usher. So yes, I know.
Okay, someone sold.
It just inspired me because it feels like very fresh storytelling, but still an adaptation, and I love writing adaptations. So it was really cool, and I love letting literature inspire theater and vice versa. So yeah, What Moves the Dead, T. Kingfisher. Can't recommend it enough.
I really love that you got through mushrooms, clarified mushrooms, rabbits, then fall.
Yeah.
That was really well.
Well, you gotta lead up. You gotta build.
Yeah. Well done. Anyone else?
I'm cheating here because I can't remember the author or the title. But I know I got the book back in the 90s. I believe it was a very famous British director. I can't think of it. But the whole premise is the afterlife of art. So when we take a look at the Venus de Milo, we only know her without numbers. So after a piece of work is done, how other generations then interact with that piece of work.
I'm going to need you to find the name of this book.
I totally will. In fact, I'm sure it's on my bookshelf at home, but I haven't looked at it in like 20 years.
Okay. Something about the afterlife of art. If that's not the title, that's a great title.
It's darn close, but
Okay.
I can't find it.
Okay. What do you got?
When I saw that we'd be having a recommendation, I was like, oh God, what do I say? I think a book that I read recently that I found just fascinating was a book called Follies of God by James Grissom. And it's Follies of God and the Tennessee Williams Women of the Fog or something like that. So it's a book, it's all about Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams got James Grissom to come in and conduct interviews with all of these actresses and many actors as well, but particularly because Tennessee Williams had a fascination with his actresses specifically. And so he got James Grissom to interview all of these actresses, these brilliant actresses that he had worked with from the 40s and on. Whoever was still alive, this was like the late early 80s, it was right before Tennessee Williams passed away. So you got to see Tennessee Williams' life through his own perspective. You got to see it through James Grissom's perspective. And you got to see it through the perspective of all of the artists who worked with him, who generally loved and adored him, but also, like, it's also a really sad... Tennessee Williams was kind of a sad man. Not kind of. He was a sad man. And he was a genius, but especially in his later years, he felt the need to reclaim, like, he felt like he hadn't done anything worthwhile in so long. And so he felt the need to try to reclaim this, and this project was a part of him trying to do that. I don't think he ever really accomplished that goal, but it's a fascinating, if you like Tennessee Williams, which I do, it is a fascinating look into his life.
I'm gonna have to have you remind me of that book after this.
Yeah, totally.
So I can put it on my Goodreads.
So, I'm a sucker for new plays, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Wipeout by Aurora Real de Janeiro at Rivendell Theater Ensemble. It was really, really beautiful piece. I was so excited about it, and I'm also really enjoying the understudies kind of session of new play development. I'm really excited about all that Chicago new writing has to offer. It makes me happy.
Aurora's wonderful. I have not seen that, but
Yeah.
I saw
And
right
developed
before the fall that she did a couple years ago. She's a great writer, so
Yeah.
I'm sure that play is good.
and the execution was very, very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Let me ask this. We have just a couple minutes. Got anything to plug?
Yeah, I don't have like exact dates for you right now, but
People watch this like months from now. So
great.
that's
So-
look at it later. It'll be fun.
So I have a production of an adaptation of Hills Like White Elephants that is getting workshopped with all Northwestern cast. We applied for a grant through them, and that will be coming up in May, and then in the fall. I have a production of a play I wrote called Almost Emperor of the Unofficial District of Lake Michigan, which is a Dada adaptation of the Cat Streeter legend. That is going up with Cat's Cradle Theater. So keep an eye on the Work Center and Cat's Cradle, and you will see this coming down.
Nothing.
You got nothing?
Nothing. I got nothing.
Nothing? What are you doing in an hour?
Doing this thing with, it's probably 2 years. And there's this pocket knife and a stab.
Okay. What do you got?
I am not directly involved, but again, I mentioned I'm a company member of this company, this new company called Nonsense Theater Company. They have a staged reading production of a play called Bloodshot that is coming up. Kyle, when is that happening?
Friday and Saturday, March 22nd, March 23rd, 7:30 in the Raven Room.
So Friday and Saturday, March 22nd and March 23rd at 7:30 at the Raven Room in Ravenswood. Y'all, this company's awesome. All the artists involved are brilliant. I would love it if other people came and saw it.
You have an Instagram?
Nonsense has an Instagram. Yes, Nonsense.
Yes, I'm Peter Fellow.
Yes. So he's like the production manager. So I'm just an ensemble member. So I look over to him.
No one is ever just an ensemble.
That's fair.
Absolutely. You can go to my website or my Instagram, Gabriela Furtado Coutinho, to see what I'm going to be up to. Things are still aligning for the next few months, but there is a project I'll be performing in June that I'm not at liberty yet to disclose. And
We like that.
Spicy.
I'm really excited because there's a piece that I care a lot about that's the cover story for American Theater's winter print issue. So if you haven't snagged a copy of the understudy, it'd mean the world because I care a lot about this topic. It's about intersectional healing and care in the high school space. So yeah,
Fantastic. And yeah, if you are tuning in live at 8 o'clock on this channel, Strong Out Theater Company's Ides of March, a pocket knife Julius Caesar.
I told you it was a puppy.
Yeah, oh no, I knew it was pocket. It's not one of those like cones, is it?
No.
Okay. That will be live at 8 o'clock on the YouTube. And for the people who are here in the room, it's also happening for them too. It's also happening next Wednesday.
It's the 27th. Today.
Today's the 20th.
27th
The 27th.
at 8 o'clock. And this is happening at Burke's Public House in the Edgewater neighborhood of Chicago at the corners of Balmoral and Broadway. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I think, can we go early or? Okay. We're going to go early. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following.
Thank you.